Oh, yeah. Welcome in, everybody, to Cream of the Crop, a fantasy hockey podcast presented by Apples and Ginos, the number one fruit-based fantasy hockey podcast out there. That's confirmed. We know this. Stephen Ellis knows this. All right, I'll get to you in a minute, Stephen. All right, I just totally blew up my spot here. I got an awesome guest here. I'm your host, Blake Creamer. Give me a follow over on X at Blake Creamer AG. Check out the Apples and Ginos Discord. Check us out on YouTube. Check us out on Instagram. All the socials, all right? We're getting in the algorithm. We're getting inside your heads, all right? And it feels great. But yeah, that's not why you're here. You're here to see this awesome guest I've got. He's an associate editor and prospect analyst for Daily Faceoff. He never met a metal guitar riff he didn't like. It's Stephen Ellis. Yeah, well, did you? Okay, well, he's making a face here. Steve, is there some bad metal riffs? Is that what you're?
Yeah, I think Megadeth's a little overrated. But it's. I got a million guitars behind me. Haven't actually played them recently. Maybe when this draft's over, I'll finish recording an album I started 3 years ago.
Oh, something else to look forward to of this content creating machine that we know as Stephen Ellis here. Yeah, no, it's weird. I don't like old metal either. I mean, I appreciate it, but it's like I can't listen to it. You know what I mean? Like the high vocals. Like, what are you doing?
It's like part of it for me. Also, is like I guess I just also care about the production of the song, and unfortunately, just so many like metal songs from like the 70s and 80s just did not transfer over to modern times.
Should we just talk about like 80s metal for the whole pod? Are you down with this, Steve?
Well, given I'm a 96 born guy, I'd be an expert on the 80s for sure.
Okay. All right. Well, that's, you know what, we'll table that. We'll do it next time. We're here to talk about the NHL draft. All right. And this man's an expert. He knows what the hell he's talking about. So always appreciate having you on here, Stephen. Just giving our listeners some help with their dynasty leagues and things like that. But yeah, how has the buildup to this year's draft been for you? Obviously a busy time for you. Thank you for the content. But yeah, how's it been? And what's been kind of your favorite part of all this?
It's definitely a different year because, I know a lot of people are not going to be there in person. In terms of players, we should still get close to 100 players and pretty much every top prospect except for Brady Martin. That's because his family is a massive farming family and he's got some chores to do. So
right, I read that. Yeah, what a legend.
My wife comes from a farming family, so I totally understand. But like, that's the most Brady Martin thing that could have possibly happened. I love it. So it's been good. It's like started with the Hlinka Gretzky. Went to the World Juniors and all these other top prospect showcases. And now in the last couple of weeks, it's just been kind of crunch time, get ready to go. And my final draft rankings came out last week, 120 players. And I'm doing at least one prospect story every single day from, a while ago now, May 26th, all the way to this week. So it's been a lot of content, but it's been a lot of fun and a nice way to kind of transition out of my favorite hockey tournament of the year, the World Hockey Championship. It was like right after the U18 World Championship in April and right after the, what's that tournament? The NCAA Championship. So it's just like it's nonstop prospect stuff all in a row, which is awesome. It's great. Like there's never nothing to watch in hockey. And then this summer, got to get ready for some big hockey tournaments. Like last summer, I went and saw Greece versus Jamaica to start off the summer. And quite the... that was quite something. So I'm hoping for more obscure hockey events this summer.
That sounds good, man. Greece versus Jamaica. At least it's a nice locale. What was the score? At least there were some goals, or was it a good goalie or good players? What do you got?
So it was in Oshawa, Ontario, which is not exactly known as like a super scenic place, but it was great because I think it was a 7-4 game, but both like Greece had some like NHL prospects on their team, and Jamaica had Giovanni Smith now on the Flyers.
Okay. Yep.
So like there's some notable guys, and there was over 100 penalty minutes in that game. And I love telling the story about that one because one guy got kicked out of the game for making fun of the referee's mustache. And another guy got kicked out, and then he switched jerseys and put a new jersey on.
Just chaos,
just to see if the ref even noticed. There was another game there, I think it was Lebanon versus Puerto Rico, and I left and it was like 0-0 after the first period, and by the time I got home it was like 9-8 or some like outrageous score. I'm like, what happened to the goalies, man? Like, most important position, did they not try?
That's epic, man. I love that. I always forget there's teams like that. I used to play ball hockey pretty competitively, and they had a team in Bermuda. A Bermuda ball hockey team, and they were good.
So I'm all in on ball hockey these days. I'm playing like 6 games a week now.
Nice.
And Bermuda was actually one of my favorite stories I ever did for the Hockey News, where I wrote a story about how they play ball hockey on the side of a cliff. Like their rink is built on a cliff. Super great guys. I'm going to try to this summer to get a story on kind of how ball hockey is like growing the game in a way that like we just haven't seen before in different places. And I'm hoping to actually check out the ball hockey events they're having in LA. They're doing like a whole event of the whole street hockey thing. Like you can't really see it in my camera shot. I have 2 sets of goalie pads behind me. Like I'm ready to go tonight. So see if we win.
I love that, buddy. Yeah, man. I used to play the same thing like 4 or 5 days a week. I was playing in like pretty high tier stuff. When I tell people I play hockey, I never put ball in front of it because there's that weird stigma. They're like, "What are you doing?" Like they're picturing you with like a little plastic stick out there. It's like, no, this is like some high level stuff. Like,
that's the thing. Yeah, like yeah. I specifically say about hockey, so I'm like, hey guys, like, yeah, you might make fun of it. Try the cardio on it. Good luck. Yeah. Have fun. But like we've had guys who've played in the NHL come try play with us and can't keep up with the pace because it's just so different.
You can't glide. Yeah. But we're digressing. All right. We can talk about metal. We can talk about ball hockey. But we got to talk about this draft here, Steven. All right. Something I'd like to ask you each time you come on. And I just think like because you're a fantasy guy, you understand how it sort of translates there. What do you look for specifically in a player that gives you confidence that they could be a solid NHLer and even like a potential superstar? What are some of those things that you tend to see year after year with some of these prospects?
So you can have all the skill in the world, but if you don't have good hockey sense and you don't have a strong work ethic, you're going to struggle. And you see guys that will put up a ton of points in junior hockey, and they're just known for just like ripping shots, and they can score, they can shoot from everywhere. Mm-hmm. But those opportunities don't come as easily when you go to the NHL. So you got to find different ways to be effective, and that's why the smarter hockey players, the guys like this year, Porter Martone is one of my favorite prospects in the way that he just truly thinks the game at a high level. He doesn't lose many one-on-one battles. He's always in a scoring position. Michael Misa is another one. Like the top prospects are usually the ones where if you had to rate players off of their hockey IQ, like usually 5 of the top 5 players taken in the top 5, so everyone are among those lists. Like it's just basically you got to be a brainiac essentially out there, but because that will give you opportunities. Like if you're a good skater, that also helps. And if you work hard, you look at Brad Marchand or Corey Perry's a great example of a guy who won the NHL MVP, was a great goal scorer at one point, but then when it was clear those days were gone, he had to fully transform his game, and he outworks everybody, even at the grand old age of 40 years old. Like he's still one of the hardest working players out there, and that's what makes guys like that so valuable. The guys who are just working their tail off to be effective in any situation. And you're not just kind of like typecasting yourself to be just a third line player or just a fourth. Like you want to be able to play so many different roles. So the versatility, which goes hand in hand with, having a good hard work ethic, but then also just being able to outthink your opponents will open up opportunities there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that makes a ton of sense, right? Because you can have all the physical tools in the world, but if you don't have it between the ears and the ability to be malleable, I think to your point that's really smart because how many of these players are truly becoming like superstars? It's not common, right? So they're just trying to get to the show, and then you figure it out from there, and their careers kind of take the path they do. But that makes a lot of sense there. Let's get into the draft. Let's talk about this first overall pick. The New York Islanders have that, obviously, and it seems to me like it seems like a dunk that it's going to be Schaefer. But I mean, digging in on the team a little bit, they have kind of a positional need of center, right? They got Callum Ritchie, tentatively slotted in there at the 2C over on Daily Faceoff. Meanwhile, they have some decent defensemen, especially if they re-sign Noah Dobson. Do you think that there's a chance that the Islanders surprise us and maybe take a swing at Misa instead of Schaefer?
Maybe, but I'd also maybe, if I had to take a wild guess, I think they'd take James Hagens over Misa. Just partly I know it's kind of a lazy sell, like he's from Long Island, but from a marketing perspective, which the team needs, would be huge. You got to go best player available. And I think even though, Noah Dobson's a good defenseman and some other guys in this that are already in the NHL, they don't have a notable prospect down the middle whatsoever going forward. Like there's a very realistic possibility. The only guy that's like a full-time NHLer of all their prospects outside of baby Cole Eiserman is Cal Ritchie. So they need some help there. They got one of the worst pipelines in hockey. That's where you go out and take a Schaefer, who I think will be better than Noah Dobson. And if Noah Dobson's your second best defenseman, holy moly, man, like that's a good group to work with. So I still go Schaefer 100%. I think he's going to be an 80 plus point guy in the NHL as a defenseman. He's going to be in the Norris Trophy candidate. Like every team is looking for a guy like Cale Makar, Lane Hudson, Quinn Hughes, Adam Fox, prime Adam Fox, Miro Heiskanen. Schaefer is like those guys, mostly like Miro Heiskanen, but he will be someone that we're talking about in the Norris conversation for a long time, and I'd be taking him in a heartbeat.
Damn, that's exciting. Yeah. And I mean, we talk about value over replacement for fantasy, but I mean, that exists in the NHL as well, right? Like these type of defensemen that can get a point per game, that's a unicorn out there. You know what I mean?
Because you can have a lot of high end scorers, but you also need that high end like defensive play and the guy who can create a lot of plays from the blue line. Like that Michael Misa might have the best overall offensive package, and there's might be so many things why you'd want to take him first overall. But like teams picking Schaefer now, you're not getting Schaefer next year, and you could get someone even better and potentially Landon Dupont in 2 years. But if you're the Islanders, you're hoping you're not drafting at the bottom 2 years from now. So you're like, this is the opportunity to make that move.
Yeah, no, I like that. In terms of fantasy, like obviously, like I said, you're a fantasy guy. When you're drafting guys, are you going that value over replacement with Schaefer here, or are you taking a run at Misa in terms of fantasy? Like obviously, we know forwards are going to get more points.
Yeah, like I think Misa's probably the better fantasy value guy, but I'd argue Schaefer could be the second best, regardless. Here, and I think with Misa it's that goal scoring ability is so good. He's getting better physically. Like I think he'll be able to throw some hits too. That won't be his game, but he's also the one thing I'm curious about is he shot a lot more this year, but he's kind of said he's focusing more on the right shot than just shot like volume. So some guys are out there for shot volume, just trying to see what sticks. With Misa, I do wonder if that will not be his bread and butter in the NHL. Granted, I'm pretty sure he had the most shots of anybody in the draft class, so like still pretty damn good. But like Misa's got that ability to score goals, dominate on the power play. Like that's a guy that should have been on Canada's World Junior team, but also is going to put up a ton of points. Like I think you're fantasy wise, that's valuable. But Cale Makar is going to, or Matthew Schaefer's a guy that like. Let's say you're in a 16-team league, like he would go in the first round very quickly because you're not going to get a guy that can be that useful on the blue line. Pretty much, there's just so few options.
Yeah, I'm excited about Schaefer for sure. Just some of the interviews I've seen as well. Like, guy seems to have a good head on his shoulders, and yeah, I think that goes a long way. Just to kind of your first point, like this is a guy that is going to be. He's got the mental fortitude and strength just from some of the things that he's gone through to sort of succeed at this level now. So I'm happy there. But yeah, about Misa in particular, this is a guy that I don't know. He's obviously a very exciting player. I think you've mentioned that if there's any kind of like small stain on what this guy's doing, it's maybe some defensive play. And like you mentioned, he also has a habit sometimes of cheating offensively, which I'm sure pretty much every offensive prospect does. Do you think that type of issue is a simple fix for most prospects when they make the next or step up to the next level? Or is it something that tends to fester and that could cost them some opportunity at the highest level?
I don't think it's going to be an issue for him. I think for him in particular, it's just his ability to adjust to any situation is good. And like I've written about it a couple of times, but like, there's something to be made about being in the right spot at the right time. And that is what he's so good at. And it's making sure he's in the right scoring situations at all times. But like he still was better defensively than I think we've ever seen from him this year. And he had an extra year of development compared to other guys his age because he did get exceptional status. So he got that extra year in the OHL to kind of work on his defensive game. And this year he was more of the offensive guy. But like if let's say he goes to college next year and doesn't make the NHL, like I feel like that's something he'll put his priority in and not trying to go out and set a goal record. It's becoming that more effective all around player. So I'm not worried about it at all. Like the offensive ability dominates there. So I'm looking at it and saying, like he's gonna be fantastic, and I really say it's about as close of a flawless forward as you're gonna find. Like he's not as defensively sound as Macklin Celebrini, but Macklin Celebrini is like he thinks the way that like Jonathan Toews and Patrice Bergeron and Sidney Crosby did. Like that was a pretty special like thinker right there. When it comes to Misa, he may not be at that level, but he's going to be so versatile as a shooter and a passer, and he's going to be dominant.
Yeah, I always think about that. Just obviously, I'm thinking it from a fantasy angle, but like a prospect that comes in and gets big minutes right off the bat, like Macklin Celebrini. Like obviously, he had that defensive acumen, whereas a guy like Matvei Michkov, we saw what happened with him, who's arguably a better offensive talent, but he was getting minimized and sometimes riding pine. When he's getting torted right in the face. Oh God, that was terrible. And that could have been like a Tortorella issue, but yeah, I'm just curious about those type of things. Like, because I always love to see even a guy like Lane Hudson come in here. I didn't expect Lane Hudson would come in and be getting over 20 minutes average time on ice. And then, towards the end of the year, he was getting even up like around 25 minutes and stuff like that. So yeah, I just wonder how easy that is to sort of look past when you're a coach, or is it a certain type of coach that will, live with the mistakes that a young player has and get him out there for offensive situations. So yeah.
Like not every player is going to be a 200-foot player. Misa can be though. Like that's the thing. Like I'm not too worried about it. Like it's him cheating a little bit to get offensive plays is partly why he had one of the most successful seasons we've ever seen from a draft eligible prospect in the OHL. So like there's that. But like for some players, if you're not being able to put up massive numbers and then your defensive game hurts, that's when things start to hurt. But when like Lane Hudson is probably never going to be, the greatest defenseman in the history of the NHL, but his ability to dominate and control the play of the puck, we saw what happened to the Montreal Canadiens this year. Like that's where his value comes in, and that's where very few players can match that.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited if Misa does go to San Jose, like as the 2C there. Like, do you think Misa has a chance to play this upcoming year, or is he going to marinate a little bit?
He's probably the only player I think has a really like realistic shot of being in the NHL. I would like to see him go to college and just focus on just ironing out his game a little bit. Like with San Jose, like there is no rush for him to play this year.
Yeah.
But maybe take that extra year, and he's actually like he was a finalist for the Scholastic Player of the Year in this.
Yeah, I love that too.
Like he's not just like I got to interview him at the CHL Awards, and like right after the interview, he had to go to his graduation. Like this is a guy who does take school seriously. Although the school he was graduating from, I don't know how many classes he did in person, given it's in Oakville, Ontario, outside of Toronto, and he played in Michigan, which is a few hours away. So I don't think he was at school every single day. But in terms of that, like he's going to be like he's the guy who's got the best shot of it. He also has a lot of experience on the wing if they feel like that's the way to go. But let's say Will Smith moves back to center. Celebrini, Will Smith, like Michael Misa, a combination of those three guys, like insane. Like they really needed Matthew Schaefer. But yeah.
We'll see. Door's not closed there. I don't know, but yeah, it's fun stuff. Yeah, I'm excited about Misa moving forward here. Let's move on. I do think that the consensus is this is sort of a weaker draft than what we've seen in the past few, but the top 10 kind of, even just the guys we talked about already, seem pretty slick. And James Hagens is a guy that I don't know, people were obviously pretty damn excited about in his pre-draft year. Guy has all the offensive talent in the world. But yeah, obviously went to the Eagles there and kind of just had a muted performance. And I wanted to get your take on it. Like, what sort of changed when he kind of went to that different league? And do you think it was just roster construction, or was it, maybe like the players like Ryan Leonard or Gabe Perreault, sort of they were the big dogs on the team and he was sort of a supplementary piece? Or what do you think happened there?
I will say that I still think his season was fantastic, and he still had a point per game. Like he reminds me a lot of like Jack Hughes at the same age. Jack Hughes he went from the USNTDP to the NHL right away, but that's because just of when he was born. Yep. But with James Hagens, like so much of his value is away from the puck. And that's why I still have him as a top 5 prospect. And that's why I'm not calling the season a failure by any means. Like, he still had 37 points as a junior age player playing against men in college. Like that's still really impressive, but still one of the best offensive players in the game in the draft. Outstanding hands, one of the better skaters, great in transition, like absolutely dominant there. No one's going to pass him a lot of the time. And you see the records he was able to break at the U17 and U18 level. So he was always like really advanced for his age group. But then when he goes to college and faces tougher competition, yeah, he didn't put up Macklin Celebrini numbers or even Will Smith numbers. But what he was able to do was still like a top 5 college season that we've seen from a draft prospect in last decade, I'd say, because of just he outsmarts so many players. He's one of the smarter players, really high ceiling, great hands. You put that all together, and yeah, James Hagens is one of my favorite prospects of the draft. He's not huge. He's added some muscle, so he's definitely stronger than he was a year ago. Mm-hmm. Yep. That's not going to be his strength, though. But one more year in college would definitely not hurt him.
Yeah. I mean, how confident are you that he's going to kind of figure it out when he gets that next level, even this next year in college? Like, do you think we're going to see kind of him get back up and kind of live up to that hype that he had, pre-draft year here?
Yeah. Like, I think part of it was he set super high standards. Like, he put up one of the best draft -1 years I can recall since I've started covering prospects. Like the standards for him were so high, and while he didn't like elevate his game to another level, I think we're still got to be realistic of the fact that it's still special, the numbers he's putting. So even any improvement, if he hits 45, 50 points next year, that's big, especially given his two line mates will not be there. But due to who is going to be still there, Teddy Stiga. And why that's important, Teddy Stiga was the winger for James Hagens when he went and set the record for most points at the U18 World Championship. So those guys are good friends. They play well together. I'm going to assume they're going to be playing together next year. I think it's still going to be a great season for Hagens, and I'm not worried. So 2 years from now, he'll be either a number 1 or a number 2 centerman in the NHL.
Oh, I love that. I mean, last thing on Hagens here, like what do you think like floor ceiling sort of player comparables are? So best and worst case for James Hagens. What do you think? Like is Hughes is the ceiling?
I think so. Like at the very least, you want to be like as good as like a Logan Cooley, like a smaller center who could do so many great things. But like low production wise, I think we're talking 60 points, high 85, 90. That's kind of what I'm looking at performance or production wise, at least. So a lot of what he does that makes him valuable is away from the puck. His defensive, like his ability to just make plays stop or beat guys with the way he like will just be in the spot you want to be before he gets there. Things like that, I think is good.
Yeah, for sure. Just digging in on some of your rankings here, your top 32, you've got Porter Martone ranked one spot ahead of Hagens at number 3. And I thought that was interesting. Is that due to some of these intangibles, things like size and age, like leagues that he's in? And are we talking about maybe two players heading in potentially different directions, or what is it you like about Porter Martone over James Hagens there?
It's so close. That was actually my very last change I made, like about an hour before I published those rankings. Like that's how tight it was on that. But with Martone, it's just like watching the playoffs and the guys that really kind of can dominate the playoffs. Martone feels like one of those players. When he wants to, he can absolutely bully guys out there. I think the one criticism is that he didn't do that a lot this year. But he tried to fight like Michael Misa, like, and they're friends, and he tried to fight him earlier in the year. I thought that was hilarious. But I think with him, might be the smartest winger in the draft. His shot is incredible. He didn't put up 50 goals like everyone expected him to, but what he did develop was this outstanding ability to just be a high-end playmaker alongside Carson Raykoff. Next year, I believe Raykoff's going to the AHL. Martone's expected to go to the NCAA. My guess is he'll be relied on a bit more to score goals next year in college, if that is what ends up being the case for him. And that's going to be good for him because I think he's got one of the best shots in this draft class, like a top 5, but he didn't score like a top 5 shooter. It's just everything else kind of really improved about his game. I know skating is the big thing that people look at and say, oh, it's not great. It's like, well, it's a hell of a lot better than it was 2 years ago. And it continues to get better. And I'm not worried about that. So, I like Porter Martone a lot. He's got the size. He can be like a Matthew Tkachuk out there. So I like him out there.
Yeah, no, I like that comparison as well. I mean, this guy's he's toolsy, right? Guys with this kind of, skill set and size. Yeah, that seems like something that's going to be tough for the Blackhawks to maybe pass on there. Let's move on. There's another player that I'm very interested in for dynasties, just because there's a little bit of a difference in where he might be ranked, and it's Anton Frondell. Definitely an interesting player. I just interviewed Byron Bader and talked about his model, and he actually has Frondell ranked ahead of everybody in terms of this. Not that he thinks he's going to be drafted there, but he thinks Frondell shows out the best in his model. And obviously seeing that made me take another look at him. You've got him at 5. Elite Prospects has him at 13. What do you think are the potential risks with this player? Why is there that big of a difference in potential where he might be drafted?
I just don't think he's a play driver. And that to me is where he just falls a little short. He doesn't have like the speed or the pure skating to kind of take that to the next level. But really big power forward guy. He's got one of the best shots in the draft class. Can absolutely rip guys on the power play, and like he's a physical player, but he doesn't go out of his way to just knock guys down. He just uses that ability to just rush to the net better than anybody else. He just overpowers players. So I think I wouldn't be surprised if he goes number 3 to the Chicago Blackhawks, because they would like a guy that like he fits like the mold of like a maybe like a Brock Nelson, I'd say. I hate comparables because it feels like it's an unrealistic way of looking at players. But in terms of just the ability to just kind of win battles with his size and rush to the net, I feel like that's where Frondell gets. But he's not the most creative guy, and there's a lot of times where he's got to be the one, like he'll finish the play, but he won't be the one chasing after guys and making things happen. So he's not a play driver, but I think that you're still getting a guy who, at the very least, is going to be a very impactful power forward who I feel confident will be at least a number 2C.
Yeah, that's an interesting piece there. I was watching some highlights on Frondell, and boy, he looks great on the power play. That's for sure.
Yeah,
that one-timer on the flank there is ridiculous. So that's a nice piece. But I agree with you, and this is something just for fantasy in general. I'm always looking at getting play drivers, not the guys in the sidecar, right? Because what happens when they move away from the play drivers? It's like, they're kind of just sitting there, like Brock Besser's another guy I know is kind of similar like that, where it's just. Yeah, you give him the puck, he's going to rip it, no problem, but he's not making plays himself. So that's an interesting piece there on Frondell. All right. I think so the top 10 we talked about, like some really good pieces there. I wanted to talk to you about some of the forwards here in the 5 to 15 range, and just, kind of kick it to you. Like, who are some of your favorite forwards in that range? I mean, guys like Jake O'Brien, Caleb Denoye, Victor Eklund, Roger McQueen, Brady Martin, all these guys. Like, who are some of your favorites in that section of the draft?
So I really like the hardworking guys, like I mentioned earlier, and very few work as hard as Brady Martin out there. Like he reminds me of watching Sam Bennett, Brad Marchand. He plays on the line. He's not like taking stupid penalties, but he's going out there and he's playing aggressive. He's chasing after guys. Is he the best skater? No. Does he make up for it by just being like a dog out there trying to chase down everybody? Absolutely. He also put up over 70 points on a Sioux Greyhounds team that didn't have a lot of really skilled players to play with. So like he had to do a lot of the heavy lifting this year. So I really like him. Carter Bear is a guy I continue to really get impressed with. I recently did a feature on him, called him like one of the most intense forwards out there. It's like, when he's on the ice because he's going to chase you down, he's going to outwork you and things like that. So I really like him. And like between those two guys, I feel like they're going to have a great career. O'Brien, it feels like a very safe pick. Probably not going to go out there and put up a ton of points in the NHL. Did have 98 this year in the OHL. I do wonder how he'll perform now that like when Nick Lardis isn't there. We'll see. But I think he's great. Caleb Denoye is really just like, he's a proven winner. He's won at every level. I asked his coach about him, Gardner McDougall, one of the best coaches not in the NHL, by the way. I asked him about Denoye, and he just called him one of the most special players he's ever been able to coach. Just what a Patrice Bergeron style forward out there. Roger McQueen's the most interesting one, I think, because of his back injuries, but you're not going to find many more 6'5" guys who could skate or have the skill that he has. So I'd say they're all really exciting pieces, but Brady Martin's the one I'm most excited about. And if he goes number 4, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, well, I mean, what do you think? What do you think of his ceiling, Brady Martin? Because, like, obviously he's got those things that you sort of covet, right? The hard work. Like, does the rest just kind of fall into place because he's a young guy continuing to develop, or, is he more of a role player on a team that he joins?
He's a guy where, like, if he's the third liner, he's the best damn third liner you're going to find. But I could see him, like, he could play with anybody. Like, we watched him play the U18s with a lot of skilled guys in Canada, and he was the best player on that team. And we saw him also about the Hlinka Gretzky, where like Gavin McKenna and Cole Reshny, like a lot of superstar or future superstar talents on that team. And Brady Martin, again, was one of the best players on that team, despite not scoring a goal, because he didn't lose any battles. But he's got enough skill where if you put him at top 6, he could definitely hang. So, yeah, maybe not the most offensive potential guy, but I see him getting 60, 70 points a year.
Yeah, and then bringing those intangibles, like you said, I love that.
He's the hardest hitting guy hardest hitting forward in this draft. Like, you want him on your team.
Yeah, no, I love that. Roger McQueen's another one. Just I'm glad you mentioned him, just because I just watched the highlight package of him too. Jeez, he's giving me Tage vibes for sure. Like, the guy's huge, and he's really good at dangling. He does that. He kicks it between his legs or whatever and just goes wide around the guy, then cuts into the net. I saw him do that like 5 or 6 times in one highlight package.
Yeah.
So that's an exciting player. Obviously, really high ceiling, but pretty damn risky with the injury narrative there. So, yeah, where do you think Roger McQueen's going to go?
Great question. I could see him go 7, 8, maybe. I wouldn't be surprised if it fell out of the top 10 for teams just being cautious. Like, if you really need a big win in the draft, I don't know if I would go for him. If you've got a couple of good players in the pipeline already, you're willing to take a risk on a guy who could bring out some of the best potential, that's where it'd be more interesting. So I'd say anywhere kind of in like the 7 to 14 range, but I feel like he'll probably go in the top half of that.
I love it. Well, if he falls in there, I feel like whoever gets him is getting obviously a pretty damn good player, and one that can really hit. That's for sure. Cool. Well, I want to talk about some of the defensemen here in this draft. Obviously, besides Schaefer, who's likely going to go number one, the D options seem solid. I mean, potentially boring, right? I mean, we got not guys that are going to be numbers popping off the page, but definitely very useful defenders for these NHL teams. You've got Aitcheson ranked ahead of players like Mrtka and Jackson Smith. And I just wanted to get your take on that, because this is a guy as well that seems like he's starting to move up the board a little bit. And I wanted to get your take on that, because the initial reports I got of him is kind of like a Radko Gudas type player with obviously more offense, right? A more dynamic Radko Gudas, if that makes sense. Does that sort of track? And why is this guy moving up the boards?
I think it's just in terms of being able to dominate defensively, like this is one of the best options you're going to find. And he's also one of the best offensive defensemen too. Like he had nearly 30 goals. Mm-hmm. I don't think anyone saw that coming. Like I'd say he's more like Jacob Trouba. I think that's really what I feel like when I'm watching him. A guy who right now his skating needs some work. He's not the fastest guy, but he'll just pound you to death. Like he will go over to you and make sure you're dead, basically. And it's entertaining to watch him, because he's one of the hardest hitters, one of the best offensive defensemen. You put it together, lot to like. Like he's just a tough guy to beat. Yeah, he's not a 6'4" defenseman, but he plays like he's one. But it's like if you can add that extra speed and that extra mobility, he's going to be in great shape. So not a perfect defenseman, but he's really a throwback guy that I feel like is going to really prove some people wrong, I think. So I really he's kind of like my hot take player. Like I know I got him 10. I know that might be the highest you'll find him, but I like him a lot there, because it's like I think he's just going to be a great defenseman. Yeah. Will he score 26 goals in the NHL? No, he won't. Would he score 10? Yeah, I'd say I feel comfortable with that. Will he maybe get 40 points? Sure. He will also be like top 5 in hits. So I love that.
I love that too. You love your defensive defenseman. I remember talking to you about EJ Emery, and after that conversation, I went out and got him on all 3 of my Dynasty teams, because he was just sitting there. I mean, he's not going to be probably great for fantasy, but I don't know. At least he'll be an NHL or racking up the hits, it sounds like.
Yeah, like I don't know if he even had a goal this year in the NCAA, but that's okay, because I think he really allowed Cole Hudson to focus on his ability last year to dominate the puck, which helped Hudson a lot. Mm-hmm. And as a result, I think just showed how good of a defenseman EJ Emery is. Yeah,
I love that. I got Cole Hudson on my team too. What do you think this guy's going to do? I'm going to put you on the spot here, but Cole Hudson's a guy, obviously, like, does he have the ability to get where Lane is? Is he the same kind of player?
He's not as dynamic or skilled, but he's stronger. And I think that we're talking about a guy who's going to have a very good NHL career. He won't get as much hype because he'll be in Washington as opposed to Montreal. Mm-hmm. But I think that there is an argument that he could be better at the same age than Lane. So we'll see. I'm still trying to figure that one out.
Yeah, I'm just thinking positively here. It reminds me of kind of Quinn Hughes and Luke Hughes.
Sure.
Sort of. Yeah. I think that's how I'm doing that. Because I do like comparables, because I'm a simple person. All right. Very simple. I need very easy boxes to put people in. All right. Let's move on. Actually, before we do that, so you got Aitcheson's there. Do you have any quick thoughts on Mrtka and Smith? Like they kind of profile in a similar way. Obviously, Mrtka's, pretty big. What do you like about those 2 players?
Smith's a bit more mobile and I think more offensively inclined. I think that he's just prone to too many dumb mistakes with the puck, and that's why I did drop him. He was my number 2 defenseman for almost the entire season. Yeah, I dropped him just slightly. I'd say like you can go with Aitcheson, Mrtka, and Smith and be happy with any of the 3, because I feel like they're super close. They're just slightly different. Like with Mrtka, it's the pure size there, like the 6'5", 6'6", and he's
beefer.
Yeah, just a tough guy to play against. Smith, it's like he can hit you, but that's probably not what he's going to be known for. He's more of an all-around guy of the 3. So I think he'd be happy with any of the 3. If you had to pick like who would be the best offensively, I'm thinking it's Jackson Smith. If I had to pick who would be best physically, it's Aitcheson, and maybe like the best defensively, it's Mrtka.
Yeah, no, I like that. 3 boring picks that are all going to probably hit, for their NHL teams as they get up here and play some, decent minutes for the teams. All right. We got to move on to the back half of the first round here, because this is, where I know nothing about anybody. So who do you think is a potential value from picks like 15 to 32? And I was digging in on your rankings, and, I'll kick to you, before, because I've got a couple names here that I'd love to get your take on, but 15 to 32, who's getting value there?
Cullen Potter, I think, is the best value there. Like that's a guy that you look at the move to playing at ASU as a smaller player. I think he joined as a 5'9" player. It didn't look like he struggled one bit. Like ASU wasn't a great, like it isn't a high profile team, but he basically just made them a must watch team most nights. What also really impressed me was how good defensively he was. Like you'll find some of these smaller guys that got to rely on their speed and skill to make it work, but he's also just a good defensive player too. So you really kind of combine that together, and it's like, wow, like there's a lot happening right there for a smaller guy. So if he gets taken like 15th, I wouldn't be surprised. But I think right now there's a lot to like about Cullen Potter. I like Riker Lee too. Like he was 5'7" or 5'9", I want to say last year. And this year he's like 6 foot and he plays bigger. So I really like Riker Lee. So I think those are the two that feel good. And like Joshua Ravensbergen, if you want to swing for a goalie, feels like a good pick. Probably the only like guy I feel confident saying will be an NHL starting goalie between his size and athleticism. But like a team like Columbus, I feel like if he's still on the board for Columbus, it'd be a mistake to pass him over.
Yeah.
But I know Blue Jackets fans love Jack Reeves, but like, what if you could have a goalie that's better than Jack Reeves? Here you go.
Well, he'll never have a better name. Actually,
No.
Ravensbergen, I called him, in the last pod I talked about him, I called him Ravensburger because I can't read. But they might be Jack Graves, better name, Ravensbergen, close. I don't know. This is the stupidest thing I've ever said. I'm sorry about this, Steven. Talking about Ravensbergen there. Do you think that he does go in the first round? Like you said, if it gets to Columbus, they're going to have to make that decision, or do you think he slips out of there?
I think he'll be a first rounder because if you look at it, like there's just enough teams that could use a goalie in their system, but also like the talent falls off after like 23, 24. So like if you have an opportunity to pick a goalie, like that's a swing that I would be definitely taking this year.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm looking forward to seeing that. You wrote a great article over on Daily Faceoff as well about a couple boom or bust picks, like high risk, high reward kind of picks. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. And I've got a couple players as well that I'm just interested in your take about. But can you just talk about some of these boom or bust picks from the draft here that you're interested in?
Well, Ivan Ryabkin's interesting because he's a guy who struggled in the Russian junior leagues, but when he came over to the USHL, he started to score a lot and showed a lot of promise. Yep. That's one where I feel like his skating is going to be an issue, though. Like, not that it's necessarily terrible, but it's like it might even be close to what Porter Martone's is. But the difference is I don't think he's got the overall skill set to overcome that. So that might be the tough one. But if he can, different story because he's just really hard-hitting forward that plays a bit more physical than we're seeing we usually see it at Russia. So I like him. One other one I'll say is Mason West. And that's one that I've kind of really grown on me for the last couple of weeks because it's interesting. This is a guy who's going to be playing like college football or not college football, high school football, like at a high level coming up. Like he's a dual sport athlete still. Very successful hockey player, could go as high as early in the second round, maybe even in the first round, depending on who you talk to. But Mason West is one where, like, you hope he doesn't get injured from being a quarterback. Obviously, I'm not much of a football guy. I know it's just a position that's not the worst one, the hardest one to get hurt in, I should say. But with him also, I think that it's just like that pure size and ability to just win every battle is impressive. And like, it's one thing to dominate Minnesota high school, but then he went out and dominated the USHL. So we'll see what he could do in a full season of junior hockey and then college going forward. Like, I think like it was a great short stint, but it was a short stint. So let's see what he could do in a full year. And then that's where he could be a really nice value guy, or he falls off the face of the earth. Who knows?
Yeah, I didn't know anything about the guy until I started digging in on the draft, but that's a neat piece. Like, just a specimen. This guy's a unit. And then, he's a dual sport athlete. So that's just an interesting piece. But I mean, it sounds like he has sort of committed to, like, once he finishes this football season, he's going to focus on hockey. Is that kind of your understanding as well?
Yeah. So it's just the one more season of high school. He said he wanted to like play it out with his teammates that he committed 2 years ago. He wants to continue with that. But then after that, it's all hockey all the time. And I think that's, well, again, I don't watch football, so I don't know if he's a better football player than hockey player, but I think the fact that he's such a good hockey player is probably the right choice.
Why don't football players have bigger pads on their legs? I don't understand. Like, they're getting annihilated. That's where they get tackled, and they're just like these little bean poles sticking out of like a massive like upper body. You know what I'm talking about here?
I saw a guy from the Buffalo Bills this weekend. I don't even know who it was because I don't watch football, but look at this guy. I'm like, man, this guy could probably like fight a tanker, but then like probably would be tripped over from just the thought of being near the guy's legs. Like it looked very odd.
Yeah, like a stiff wind will blow this man over. Yeah,
it was a little weird build, but he's a good player apparently. So
I don't know. All right, I used to play football when I was a kid, and not well. I was a kind of a bigger kid, and they put me on the offensive line. That's like the worst thing you could do for a kid. You know what I mean? And their confidence, like, just give me the football. I want to do stuff. But anyways, I saw some kid get tackled and just his knee dislocated right in front of me. I was like, okay, I'm good. I might go play hockey instead. Yeah.
Better sport.
Exactly. So there you go. And you can see the results. All right. One thing I want to get from you, which I didn't write in the notes here, but I'd love to just get any last thoughts of just players, maybe round 2 and up, kind of sleepers that you're sort of excited about, guys that, probably are going to fall because of size or attitude or whatever else, but guys you think can actually do something and be a bit of a steal for these NHL teams.
Keep an eye out for Cale Dock out of the Sherwood Park Crusaders, a guy that had an outstanding year, and the BCHL has lost a lot of talent this year. Like, let's be clear about that because of the CHL NCAA stuff. So he really started to shine in a way. I'm like, yeah, I really believe that he's going to be a pretty solid, 3rd or 4th round pick. And if he could show that he could continue that momentum with the WHL and then the NCAA, I think he'll be in great shape. I like Simon Wang, who very likely is going to become the highest drafted player out of China ever. That's awesome. He hasn't started playing. He only started playing hockey like at a competitive level, like 14 years old. 2 years later, he was drafted to the OHL. Like, think about how short of a run it is. Yeah, he was playing hockey before, but he was never like, he moved from China to Toronto in an attempt to just keep playing hockey, but he didn't say like, oh, I actually want to pursue this as a career until just a couple of years ago. Big 6'6" defenseman that skates really well. I love that. So I look at that and say like, there's actually a lot of that to me makes me think that he's going to be a very good project player when he figure out how to just look more confident and make more confident decisions with the puck. But when he gets that, he's going to be in good shape too. So I like Simon Wang, a guy that I remember watching him play a junior A game in November. And it was like, I think almost every single NHL team was in there to watch. Not a big rink, not a lot of people. So it was noticeable, but he drew a lot of attention this year.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, but that's all I got for you, Steven. This is some really good stuff, man. I really appreciate that. Before I let you go, I know that you were at the draft combine there, and I don't know, did any of these players stand out as like just a wingnut? Like who had the biggest personality, or like just something that stood out to you when you were seeing these players over at the combine there?
Caleb Denoyer said that he would. There was one question he was asked by the Montreal Canadiens: is like if there was a water bottle and a baseball bat on an island, but only one and you're with someone else, but only one person could have that water bottle, like what would you do? And he said he would hit a home run, and I'm like, I don't know what to make of that answer, but I like it. It. It's a good answer, and because most of the people said like, oh, I'd beat the crap out of the guy, but he said he'd hit a home run. I'm like, is that the right answer? I don't know. I love it. So it's like that. And Will Horkoff was fun to get to talk to him. Like he's a big Oilers fan because of his dad, Sean Horkoff.
Loving life.
Yeah, I didn't love the end of the playoffs. I'm assuming, but he's a physical specimen. I think he added like 20 pounds this year, and you could tell he's like a monster. He can go out there and fight. I said that a tanker before. What's bigger than that? 25 Hulks. I think he could probably take on.
Just a beefcake, just an absolute unit. Well, buddy, you're also an absolute unit. All right. That's called a segue. That's an amazing segue by me. I'm going to take the credit there. But before I let you go, I do want to shout out Daily Faceoff. Yeah, you guys just released the 2025 NHL Draft Hub. That's an amazing resource, man. That's excellent. That's like, if you want to see what Steven's been doing over the last little while here, you go over to Daily Faceoff, you check out the NHL Draft Hub, and you see an insane amount of content, all really valuable stuff. You want to get prepared for your drafts, you get your biscuits over there, and you do it now. But Steven, thank you so much for being here. Before I let you go, why don't you shout out where we can find you, your socials, and the floor is yours, my man.
Yep. So SLS Hockey on Twitter. Also Blue Sky, which is StephenPEllis.ca. It's my if you type that website in, it'll take you right to my page. And I got to continue the propaganda of getting everyone to keep playing ball hockey. Great sport, great exercise. Keep doing it. We need to keep growing it.
Absolutely, but we got to get, I know we're on different sides of the country here, but maybe we can meet up sometime. We'll get a little ball hockey. I love that. I had to stop playing because I got a family now, and I was getting in fights on like a random Tuesday night. You know what I mean? Like, I can't just go out and assault a man on Tuesday and then come home to my kids. You know what I'm saying? So,
I always, as a goalie, I offer the other goalie before the game. I was like, hey, do you want to fight? Like, just do a goalie fight? Like, the most important, like, I got to get the team started by like getting into fights. And I just got my own like goalie jersey made up before Nations Face-Off with my name on it.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome, dude.
And it's just fun. It's like I've gotten to a lot of people that I knew that they didn't care about playing hockey that now love the sport in the last few months just because they're playing ball hockey more consistently. It's a cheaper way getting into hockey.
Yep.
It's not 1-to-1, but guess what? Beer league players aren't going to the NHL either. So play the way you want. Play the game the way you want to play it.
Absolutely, buddy. I love it. Shout out to Ball Hockey. Shout out to Stephen Ellis. Appreciate you, my man. And shout out to our listeners. All right. Thank you so much for being here. We got more content locked and loaded on the way. But until then, thank you so much. Celebrate your day. Bye for now.